Thank you, Bill Keller, for those remarks. And Bill and I really do go way back together to Stadium Apartments at the University of Alabama, when who was to be his wife was my next-door neighbor that I introduced him to. So I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. I thought of a story that I want to share. This is a story Bill doesn't know, no one in this room knows. I'm going to share it with you today. When I was 14 years old, I had a very traumatic experience that happened in my young life. I was in the 9th grade. What happened was, I failed algebra. Not for a semester, for the year. I remember my guidance counselor telling me I really need to work on my grades because the way I was going, I might not be able to get into college. Well, another thing happened that same year, 14 years old, 9th grade, and I didn't even see the connection at the time. I got on the staff of my high school newspaper, The Echoes of Evergreen High School. My first assignment was to cover an eclipse of the sun. Our science teacher assembled a telescope in a cow pasture outside of Evergreen, rural Connecticut County, where we could view the eclipse. By the way, the eclipse didn't happen that day, or if it did, we didn't see it. I managed to write a story, though, about the eclipse that didn't happen. My first byline. So were my humble beginnings. My pastor friend, the Reverend Walter Albritton, who's here today, might agree that God was telling me at an early age, young man, pursue a career in journalism and not in anything math-related. My first year at the University of Alabama, I took my first journalism class, and it didn't get off to such a good start either. My first story in news writing, I made a D- after I misspelled the name of the president of the University of Alabama. He had, I considered unusual last name, was David Matthews, but he spelled it with one T. I assumed it had two. I learned an important lesson that day, the importance of accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. Don't ever assume. And if your mother says she loves you, you better check it out. The lab teacher wrote on my paper, if you want to succeed in journalism at the University of Alabama, you better learn how to spell the president's name. Well, with math out of my life forever, I was able to take classes in college that I enjoyed. And I especially loved my community journalism class. Bill mentioned it a moment ago. It was 1975. The guest speakers who visited Dr. Charles Arundale's community journalism class, well, they were editors and publishers from all over the state. They just made it sound so interesting. And I knew that's what I wanted to be. I would be a weekly newspaper editor. I graduated in 1976 and I got a reporter job at the South Alabamian, a weekly paper in Jackson. It wasn't for a 40-hour work week either. It was for how long it took to cover the news and do the job. News doesn't take a break on weekends, and I found myself often covering fires, wrecks, family reunions, dinners on the grounds, revivals, and library board presentations on Saturdays and Sundays. My newspaper career took me from the South Alabamian to the Montgomery Advertiser to the Bruton Standard to the Andalusia Star News. I'd reached my goal. I was a community newspaper editor. Then something happened that forever changed my life and my plans for a long career in community journalism. I got a call one day. Gillis Morgan, Auburn University. He's here today. Then Jack Sims called. Jack's here today. They asked if I would be interested in applying for a position as an assistant professor of journalism on the Department of Journalism. I didn't hesitate for a second. I got the job, came to Auburn, a little nervous, actually a lot nervous. I'd never taught in a classroom before. But I found that I loved Auburn. I loved the journalism department. I loved teaching. I loved what I was teaching. And I loved the students. Then something else happened several quarters later. We were on the quarter system then. Jack asked me one day out of the blue, "Do you want to be plainsman advisor?" Of course. To be associated with the Auburn Plainsmen for those 23 years was without a doubt the best and most fulfilling part of my career. I never thought of my life's calling as a job. I loved every single day that I spent in the basement of Ford Union with those Plainsman students. To have been associated with journalism at Auburn and with the Plainsmen, to have had the opportunity to influence the lives of hundreds, maybe even thousands of students, who could ask for more? Doing what you love, making a difference, having fun, and getting paid for it. Well, it was a blessing. It was a means of God's grace in my life. To be so tightly entwined into a journalism program that you become synonymous with it in the minds of so many former students and former Plainsman editors, it's a legacy that I accept with humility and honor. And as for the guidance counselor who told me in the 9th grade that I might not get into college, well, look at me. I have spent practically my entire adult life in college. Thank you, Journalism Advisory Council, for honoring me, and thanks to my friends here today who have been with me for this fantastic journey. Thank you.